Okay, so first attempt here at sort of live video, okay? So I wasn't going to do a video today. I was going to spend today catching up on some viewing, and I was checking out the channel of my subscriber and friend Tom Carberry here. And the nature of his research is amazingly interesting to me. And he uses a lot of Bible stuff. And so I just wanted, this is my Bible, right? And let's see if we can get in on it. June 10th, 1979, I was 8 years old, right? And I just wanted to showcase that this is the Revised Standard Version and not the King James Version, okay? And so in the research, in the video that I was watching of Tom's, he uses a lot of Bible stuff, like I said. And so I wanted to cross-reference what he was talking about with my Bible. And I started reading it, and the idea came to me that, oh my God, I would love to do a series where I just read verses from the Bible. And I may do that. But I just wanted to show this preface here, right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the first page or so of this preface for this video. And it will make sense with the title of the video, I hope. This is my beat-up Bible from 1979. It's got like food stains and stuff on it. It's got bookmarks. Look at the age of the... I mean, who knows when I put those in there. You know, 1987. When I was the angry teenager rebelling against God. So anyway, this is the sort of introduction to this, and I'm going to read the preface and see where this video takes me. All right. Okay, here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is. I hope it's good to be where you are, because it is certainly good to be here. My name is Baltimore Fats, and this is Mud City. Okay, there's a picture of my well thumbed through filthy Bible. So before I begin with my reading, I want to stress that this is not a condemnation of the Bible. I'm not Bible bashing by any stretch of the imagination here. I have much respect for the book and for people who live their lives by it. Okay, I just want to make that clear. The only thing for me is I just believe it is a work of man, and you can make of that what you will. So I just wanted to start off here really quickly and say that this is the Revised Standard Version, translated from the original languages, being the version set forth in AD 1611. So that's your Francis Bacon New King James Version, right? Revised AD 1881 to 1885, and again in 1901. Compared with the most ancient authorities, and revised again from 1946 to 1952. And the second edition, which is the one that I have here, was published in 1971, the year of my birth, a very good year, right? Okay, so this is the preface, which has no author. The Revised Standard Version of the Bible is an authorized revision of the American Standard Version published in 1901, which was a revision of the King James Version published in 1611. The first English version of the scriptures made by direct translation from the original Hebrew and Greek, and the first to be printed, was the work of William Tyndale. He met bitter opposition. He was accused of willfully perverting the meaning of the scriptures, and his New Testaments were ordered to be burned as untrue translations. He was finally betrayed into the hands of his enemies, and in October of 1536 was publicly executed and burned at the stake. William Tyndale, burned at the stake, right? 1536. Yet Tyndale's work became the foundation of subsequent English versions, notably those of Coverdale in 1535, Thomas Matthew, probably a pseudonym for John Rogers, in 1537, the Great Bible of 1539, the Geneva Bible of 1560, and the Bishop's Bible, 1568. In 1582, a translation of the New Testament made from the Latin Vulgate by Roman Catholic scholars was published at Rheims. I think that's what that says. The translators who made the King James Version took into account all of these preceding versions, and comparison shows that it owes something to each of them. It kept felicitous phrases and apt expressions from whatever source which it had stood the test of public usage. It owed most, especially in the New Testament, to Tyndale. The King James Version had to compete with the Geneva Bible in popular use, but in the end it prevailed, and for more than 2.5 centuries, no other authorized translation of the Bible into English was made. The King James Version became the authorized version, and that's in quotes here, of the English-speaking peoples. The King James Version has, with good reason, been termed the noblest monument of English prose, also in quotes there. Its revisers in 1881, backwards and forwards, like that thing in the alley. I'm never going to think of that number the same way, or that year rather, expressed admiration for its simplicity, its dignity, its power, its happy turns of expression with all that murder and death going on, the music of its cadences, and the felicities of its rhythm. That's in quotes. It entered, as no other book has, into the making of the personal character and the public institutions of the English-speaking peoples. We owe to it an incalculable debt. Yet the King James Version has grave defects. That line alone is worth the price of admission. By the middle of the 19th century, the development of biblical studies and the discovery of many manuscripts, more ancient than those upon which the King James Version was based, made it manifest that these defects are so many and so serious as to call for revision of the English translation. The task was undertaken by authority of the Church of England. There's that Church of England in 1870. The English Revised Version of the Bible was published in 1881 to 1885, and the American Standard Version, its variant embodying the preferences of the American scholars associated in the work, was published in 1901. Because of unhappy experience with unauthorized publications in the 2 decades... What? Wait a minute. Unhappy experience with unauthorized publications in the 2 decades between 1881 and 19... So there were a bunch of bootleg versions of the Bible going around. I gotta find one of those. Which tampered with the text of the English Revised Version in the supposed interest of the American public. The American Standard Version was copyrighted to protect the text from unauthorized changes. In 1928, this copyright was acquired by the International Council of Religious Education and thus passed into the ownership of the churches of the United States and Canada, which were associated in this council through their boards of education and publication. All right, so I think you guys get the gist. I mean, there's probably a ton more information in here, but for the purposes of this video, which I remember I did not start a timer on, so I'm going to say that took me 10 minutes, and I'm going to put 20 minutes on the clock. You'd think I'd be faster at this already. There we go. So what I just want to stress, at least in my sort of beliefs in the Bible, and I believe it is a very important book filled with unbelievably useful information. I will never deny the influence of the Bible. Again, I am not a Bible basher by any stretch of the imagination. I do have some problems with the book, as most people who question the world around them has, I'm sure. But again, I do not disrespect anybody who is very religious and lives their life by the Bible or believes the Bible is the Word of God. It is their opinion, and they are welcome to it. And I do not begrudge them that opinion. For my experience, those people are some of the sweetest, gentlest, kindest people. And I have some very, very religious people in my family who I love dearly. So I just want to stress that this book is, completely manufactured. These stories, wherever they're pulled from, the writers that they're pulled from, it's all discussed and manufactured. It goes back to, the Council of Nicaea, and I'm sure a lot of you have explored those areas of research as I did in my youth anyway. As much information as was out there when I was a kid and a young adult. But one thing I wanted to talk about here is because, and I think it's fun that I actually may do a thing where I read verses from the Bible just as a sort of side series, because again, with the research that Tom does, and I want to focus, it's been a while since I highlighted another channel, and I want to highlight what Tom is doing over here. I haven't watched, I bet, but a quarter of his videos so far, and the story that he's telling is riveting to me, and I wish I could spend more time with it. And as a matter of fact, I wanted to spend all day watching his stuff, and then I had to bust out my Bible to cross-reference something that he put in one of his videos, and that's now I've got a video on my hand, and I'm not watching Tom's videos. But he does a whole alternate history where, like, the Middle East of the Bible, of the Old Testament as we know it, is in Europe and in North America. And that idea is extremely fascinating to me. I think it's going to play in beautifully with where Mud City wants to take me. And again, the Bible is going to become very important. I didn't in season 1 really touch on it so much, but season 2 is going to get involved deeply with the religious aspect, and because that plays a big, big part in why the Calverts and the Carrolls were over here and what they were doing and all the stuff they dug out, these buildings and so forth. It ties in heavily to this Catholic Protestant feud. And it's interesting that the Bible that I have is the William Tyndale sort of version, I guess, who was a leading figure here in the Protestant Reformation in the years leading up to his execution. He paid for that dearly, maybe. One thing that I definitely sort of, I don't know how to say, I don't want to say I believe, but I certainly believe it's possible that a lot of like public executions and things of these heretical figures are staged events to make people disappear. And so I used to, when I was in a band, I used to like to dedicate songs. Like every song would have a dedication. And I would ask the audience, and I would go around before, and, the 4 people who were in the bar when we were playing. And, and I used to get, who would you like to hear a song to? And I used to like to just, I would dedicate songs to anybody. And so one night we had a gig, and it was the night that Saddam Hussein was getting executed. So almost every song was dedicated to Saddam Hussein's body double. So anyway, I'm just getting off. That's off topic. So I'm going to be looking into Tyndale, rather, and I'm sure he's going to be important. As will the King James version of the Bible. King James is certainly very important. And yeah, see, I'm looking at these names, and I want to get drawn in, but I'm not going to make that the focus of this video today. I think I've done enough for one video. But yeah, the Carrolls, I only touched on the Charleses, but there are other Carrolls, the Carrolls that are not Charleses, and they're highly suspicious and suspect characters, deeply entrenched in the religious aspect of things. And I'm going to be going to these basilicas and these cathedrals, and we're going to be seeing what we can find out about their relation to the mud and Mud City. And all right, so yeah, I think you can tell my level of excitement. It's going to be a good year whenever I get that started. So, yep, the 3s are still coming. I promise it's going to happen. It's going to be a horrible, horrible mess, but it will happen. And I have some loose ends to tie up, I think, the rest of this week. And then I think that's it. Yeah, we're going to get going next week. All right, so thanks for watching and listening, everybody. If you like what's going on over here, please like, share, and subscribe. And so until the next one, cheers. Okay, so I wasn't sure if I should start the video over because I wasn't crazy about the way the intro went, but I was pretty happy with my reading and most of what I said, so I'm just going to tack this on. Because when I was watching the video back to get my disgusting Bible out of your faces, when I was watching the video back, a part of what I read failed to strike a chord with me as I read it, but hearing it back before publishing the video, I wanted to stress this. I think this is kind of important. All right, and I mentioned that they talk about the unhappy experience with unauthorized publications in the 2 decades between 1881 and 1901, which tampered with the text of the English Revised Version in the supposed interests of the American public. So that's the bootleg versions, right? But the sentence before that, it says the English Revised Version of the Bible was published in 1881, and the American Standard Version in its variant embodying the preferences of the American scholars associated in the work. Okay, so the version that ended up getting bootlegged was originally the version that the American scholars had already agreed upon, right? And then, so it gets bootlegged, so they do a new version, which they copyright, which I think is interesting. Now, I'm not an expert on copyright law or anything like that, but to me, that's what they're saying. You can't mess with their book, their new, their standard revised version or the English revised version. You can't change anything in that book. But allegedly, the book is the Word of God, and it's also given out freely. I mean, they just give copies of this book away, right? You join their church, they're going to give you one, right? You go to hotels, they're there, right? And motels and whatnot. I mean, the book is free. Right? Every faith gives away free Bibles. Am I wrong about that? I mean, I know you can go buy Bibles, right, in bookstores and whatnot as well, but right, well, once you get Bibles for free all over the place, if I'm not mistaken. So I just wanted to continue here. It says that the American Standard Version was copyrighted to protect the text from unauthorized changes. So just like I said, in 1928, this copyright was acquired by the International Council of Religious Education and thus passed into the ownership of the churches of the United States and Canada, which were associated in this council through their boards of education and publication. So what that's telling me is that the Word of God, the Bible, isn't free, and that the church owns it. At least the Protestant churches do. And so I was like, okay, well, let's find out a little bit of something about the International Council of Religious Education. So let's do it a little bit here. All right, the National Council of the Churches of Christ in the USA, identified as National Council of Churches, or NCC, is a ecumenical partnership of 36 Christian faith groups in the United States. Its member denominations, churches, conventions, and archdioceses include mainline Protestant, Orthodox, African American, Evangelical, and historic peace churches. All I'm getting there is any Christian organization that's not Catholic. That's what I'm reading from that. All right, and that the present council was organized in 1950 as a merger of the Federal Council of Churches, formed by the Protestant denominations in 1908, and several other ecumenical organizations, including the International Council of Religious Education, formed in 1905, but with origins in the 1830s. So they were cooking their book for education purposes and what they wanted to do as far back as the 30s. Let's see, do we want to read about their governing board? Let's see, approximately 300 delegates from the member denominations meet every other November. It was annually prior to 2010 in a joint General Assembly with the NCC's humanitarian and relief aid sister organization, Church World Service. So I'm guessing that's, what is that? UNICEF and the Red Cross and things like that. That's what I'm getting from that. The General Assembly serves as a forum for discussing major issues, where appropriate, to approve policy statements, resolutions, and other official documents that speak to the common concerns of the member churches. Much of the council's work is done through. All right, let's see. Let's move ahead here. There was something, because I read this just a minute ago. They talk about some, prominent members of the. So let's get into their activities. What does the NCC do, right? It holds the copyright, as we just discussed, on the Revised Standard Version and the New Revised Standard Version of the Bible. Some Orthodox bodies in the NCC have been hesitant to support either translation as a text to be used in worship services. So I wonder, they must be using older Orthodox texts, I'd guess there, right? The NCC also operates Friendship Press, a publisher of books, curriculum, and other resources for church constituents. Okay, so the NCC is the propaganda arm of the Protestant church, which just pretends to have different denominations. They're all the same, right? They just have different names to make you feel a little bit different, like you're doing something a little bit different, maybe. I don't know the history of the Protestant Reformation. I'm going to get into it a little bit because Mud City is going to force me to. But there it is. When I read something like this, that they operate Friendship Press, which publishes books, curriculum, and other resources for church constituents, I mean, that's the propaganda arm, right? Yeah, that's just the way I see it. In cooperation with Abingdon, and I'm sure I've read the name Abingdon somewhere, the NCC annually publishes the Yearbook of American and Canadian Churches, a directory of and statistical. I want to get one of those. I want to know what the statistics of religious life in North America is in 2019. I gotta find that out. I bet I can go get one for free though, somewhere. In 1997, the Council's Committee on Religious Liberty published a 5-volume study of the law of church and state in America by Dean M. Kelly. Interesting. So let's see, the Faith and Order Commission. Faith and Order is an ongoing scholarly, I bet I'm saying this word wrong, ecumenical dialogue among North American Christian theologians and church historians, including evangelical, Pentecostal, and Roman Catholic, including the Roman Catholics. Interesting. Orthodox, mainline Protestant. See? There really is no division. They're still doing this. They're still working together. But here's what I really wanted. I wanted to focus on this. As a propaganda arm, right, the NCC Communication Commission created and administers Worldwide Faith News, a news distribution website in the field of religion. The WFN grants reporters and editors full permission to reproduce, copy, and quote all documents submitted by participating faith groups. The NCC is an institutional member of the Interfaith Broadcasting Commission, a partnership established in 1980, Reagan, right? With a stated goal of providing religious programming for ABC, NBC, and CBS, who at the time in 1980 were the only game in town. You had local, like UHF channels and stuff. Public Television 13, where I grew up. I don't know if that was the same everywhere. The current IBC members include the NCC, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, the New York Board of. They all get together. There's no. The complicity is disgusting, and they want to pretend that there's. They want to pretend that there's differences here and that it's not being manipulated by all the same people. Pyramid goes to a point, doesn't it? Oh, God. The NCC was also a founding member of the National Interfaith Cable Coalition. Of course, operating as Odyssey Networks. Odyssey, bringing the Greek in, right? Homer. A consortium of 70 Christian, Jewish, and Muslims. A consortium of Yeah, these three guys, a consortium of them for the Interfaith Cable Coalition. No, no. It's a sham. All these wars, all of this other. I mean, maybe there are people getting killed for this, of course, because the bloodthirsty MFers, they need that, right? But it's not real. There's nothing real about it. It is orchestrated. And here they're telling you right here, they got all these religious organs, 70 of them, putting out cable shows for you, right? And then they have it in the U.S., ABC, NBC, and CBS, starting in 1980. So, right. So the council supported minimum wage laws. Yeah, good. Right. But here, this is where was it? Wait a minute now. Shoot. There was a, right. The economical churches have engaged in issues of public policy and moral values, included by adopting the social creed of the churches in 1908. So in 1908, there was a unified social creed of these churches, right? The NCC office in Washington, D.C. advocates on the moral and ethical dimensions of public policy issues as approved by the member communions. I don't know. It supports minimum wage laws, a significant role in the civil... No. They play a significant role in the civil rights movement, you think? They didn't orchestrate any of that to their nefarious means, right? Partners with other faith-based groups such as Bread for the World, Habitat for Humanity. It's all just an interconnected octopus, right? Is it right? The NCC is also a member of Churches for Middle East Peace. Of course they are. Here's a list of the member organizations. Right. Just about every Christian organization you can imagine, right? The Alliance of Baptists and the Episcopals and the Methodists, right? The 18 remaining Armenians, they get a church. Good for them. I'm sorry, I don't mean to bust, but that Armenian Holocaust, they killed a lot of Armenians. Terrible. At least they want us to think they killed a lot of Armenians, right? And that information is out there. Presbyterians it's all unified. It's all together, right? The council's headquarters are located at the Interchurch Center in New York City, and also operates a public policy office in Washington, D.C. Separation of church and state, my derriere. Okay, so anyway, that's enough of this. You all get the point. I think I've done enough. Anyway, so yeah, that's my video for today, guys. I said my conclusion in the last one, so until the next one, cheers.